This is the former Sachsenburg concentration camp, which was set up on the 2nd of May 1933. It was later closed in 1937, and it was here that many SS criminals started off their careers in the concentration camp system. In front here we've got the Appellplatz, so this is where the inmates would be collected and roll call would be held. I'm going to turn around here and show you a building. It's the first time I've been here, but I know the story behind this building. That was the commandant's villa. Now, it was quite a big building. I've seen photographs of it, and in fact there's a photograph over here on this sign, so I'm going to take you to the sign. Now, the villa itself was where all of the guards would have lived. You may have seen a video I did at Baujet's, for example, showing where Christian Wirt lived. It was a house which was much less luxurious than this, and others from the SS lived in that house and the one beside it. Anyway, here we have a photograph of the commandant's villa, and that's taken from a position roughly where I am now. So you can see there's ground floor, first floor, and there seems to be rooms in the attic as well. And here we have a description from Eric Schade, Social Democrat, who was imprisoned here from 1935-36, and he said there were roughly 3 of us in each work detail, all men. If we had to leave early, we'd be walking at 5 a.m. and march to the villa, reporting at the guard gate, and then we entered the villa. The SS officers and the commandant lived inside the villa. We would polish their boots early and everything was in order. The black SS uniforms were brushed down. After that, everything was in order and we were left to our own devices. We also got extra food. We pocketed some of the stuff that was in the officers' mess intended for the officers. So that is the house where all this happened, which is in front of me. Now, this after the war, this, in fact, not even after the war, even before the war, the camp here was closed in 1937. The inmates were sent to Sachsenhausen and to Buchenwald. Buchenwald isn't all that, comparatively all that far from here. And this went back to its former role as a commercial enterprise. It was a spinning place. So, I mean, I believe that it closed as a result of this session. If that's not true, then I'll put the details below, as I always do. Now, this house was used in East German times as a nursery. In 1990, like many places, it became empty. It wasn't used for that purposes any longer, and it had a number of years being empty. Now, the local council acquired it in 2015, and it was infested with dry rot. And so I was told this, and I didn't know what the German was for dry rot, so I had to look it up. Then I realised I didn't know what dry rot was either, really, and so I had to look that up as well. Anyway, so the council decided it was going to knock the place down. However, there was protests. I mean, there were still people who were victims, well, I don't know, maybe their families, were still around. Let's suppose if you were brought here, let's say 1937, at the age, even if you were 16 years, well, yeah, it's asking a bit, isn't it? Somebody will be well in their 90s. But anyway, there were protests about it, and as a result, they'd knocked part of it down, and they decided that the place, people couldn't go in it, but this alternative decision was made by a court, I think it was in 2018. There's even a protest petition online which I looked at this morning, and it gathered almost 1,000 signatures before being closed, but not to have it, but to sort of rescue something when it's very, very expensive. And in my time in real estate, I saw the examples when people wanted to save things, and I said, well, you know what, it'd be much easier, much cheaper to knock the whole thing down. Well, take a lot of photographs first of all, knock the whole thing down and build it again exactly as it looked before. That is far, far easier anyway. So the court stopped it happening, and as a result, it looks like that today. So it has been covered. So the foundations, this is the plan, was to save the foundations, and that has been done. Now when I get around to doing a documentary style video on this, I've got a photograph of it. I'm sorry, I've got a recent photograph of it. I've got a photograph from 2015. So I'll put that in that video. And so today is the 10th of November, and this is a wonderful sunny autumn day with these fantastic colours. And what I'm now going to do, having told you a little bit about the commandant's villa, is have a quick look at the rest of the camp whilst we're here, because I mightn't be fortunate enough to get such lovely weather in other days. Now let's have a look at the history behind the camp. So when the Nazis came to power, there were lots of wild concentration camps set up, and that is to say the SA would, if you were a local SA boss, and you had a number of thugs under your command, you could set up a concentration camp somewhere and round up a number of opponents. You probably knew who they were because they lived in the same area as you did, and then you could have them arrested and keep them there. You didn't have to worry about the courts or the police or anything like that. Sort of a form of, I wouldn't say legal kidnapping because it was illegal, but not punished kidnapping. Right, so there were places like that, and there were lots and lots of them. One of the places like that was the Colditz Castle, and Colditz was later, when it became a bit more formalised, to be a sub-camp of this place, Sachsenburg. And as a result, though, there were also official camps set up, such as, for example, Dachau, which is often said to be the first concentration camp. Incidentally, it wasn't. But never mind, I filmed the place which was the first concentration camp, and that isn't so far from here. And if I ever get around to doing that, then you'll be able to see it. And so this place was set up on the 2nd of May 1933. And the first prisoner transport was brought in from Chemnitz, which is to the southwest of here. Now, why choose this place? Well, it was empty. It was a big building and it was empty. Normally you choose things for good transport links or something like that, and it's nearby something which needs doing. So something that needs doing could be a mine, could be a factory, could be anything. In this case, big empty building near Chemnitz, not in the town of Chemnitz, city of Chemnitz, and so that'll do nicely. So that's why this place here was used. And so this was the location where many SS people learned the ropes. It wasn't really so much Dachau. I know I've talked of the Dachau system in other videos, but it was here. Koch was one of the commandants here. You've heard of his wife, Ilse, the Beast of Belsen, but even we have a future commandant at Auschwitz who learnt the ropes here. But there are also other commandants here whose names have been largely forgotten to history, and I'm going to do videos on them. Now, as we come out here, there's my vehicle, and I want to show this because this is particularly, I think, attractive. And I know there'll be people criticising me for saying that, but if you think that this isn't attractive, then say so. This is the Schopau River, and I note there were here in this hat, not hut, what's the word name? House, sorry, in this house, there is information for hikers. So it's a hiking trail around here, very, very attractive area. So that is the spinning factory. In 1937, when the concentration camp was closed, this went back into business as it had been earlier. If I find out more about this here, and I hope I will do, because I've got the telephone number of the archivist who deals with this, so I'll be contacting her a bit later. And there you go. I mean, to me, obviously it looks fantastic on this super November day. Absolutely wonderful. You've got an hydroelectric, what do you call it? I've forgotten those names of those things. Oi. Whatever they're called. The hydroelectric thing, it turns around. It's not a turbine, but it turns around, the water comes in. It's very, very cute. Now, I see, and bear in mind that most of the people in this place were, to a large extent, communists. But not all of them. I need to point out there's some social democratic people. There were a former Reichstag member was murdered here, and I'm going to talking about him as well in a separate video. But anyway, so this is something that was put up in DDR times, and it looks very, very much like many of the monuments put up in East Germany and the Soviet Union. A very similar style. And I know the sun's very bright, but there's a bridge, a footbridge over the river, and there's at least one photograph that I know of where people here were allowed visits. Now that is somewhat unusual, and the family or friends could travel a very long way to get there, but there's a photograph of the visits being held out here with the SA in attendance. Now the SS took over this camp after the night of the long knives. So and there was a big difference between the SA men and the SS. The SA were older as a general rule. SS were younger. And the SA were sort of more of the street thugs. Those that had gone around beating people up in order to get Hitler into power. And SS, as a general rule, tended to be much younger to start off with. The average age of the SS man here, I think, was about 23. As SA, I think, if I remember rightly, was 31. So the SS also tended to be more educated. There was plenty of uneducated SS around as well. Bear in mind, as far as the SS were concerned, it was all about how loyal you were to the system. The SA were really the uneducated thugs. There were some educated people in the SA, but not many. So this bridge, I'm sure it's been rebuilt, but it looks exactly the same to me in the photographs. And yeah, I'll give you a view. That's Sachsenburg Castle, Schloss Sachsenburg, at the top of the hill up there. You know, when I got here, and the first thing I saw it, and I saw out of this, and I thought, wow. And I was walking around. I thought, if I was expecting to be an exhibition, but as it turns out, you got a ring to get them to open the door. Or maybe it's supposed to be open, but maybe it isn't for whatever reason. 10th of November, don't know what happened to you on the 10th of November. 9th of November, I understand. But anyway, it wasn't open. And I thought, even if it had been open, I wouldn't actually have gone in. I thought it was far nicer to actually walk around here and see. So the concentration camp as such, well, you can see where the commandant's villa is there. So it's this building here. And anyway, let's continue this walk around. I'll have to stand to one side because people are coming, so you can admire the view. Hello. And coming down here, now when I started out on this journey today, I was at Bautzen yesterday and this morning, and because of the temperature was quite low, and without going into this, I've got what's called a lithium ferrous phosphate battery, habitation battery in my vehicle, and I didn't want to start it up when start the engine up when the temperature was below zero. So I waited, but I went out for a walk expecting to get some wonderful views of Bautzen, and as it happened, the views were covered by fog. But anyway, so coming here and to see this, you see people out and hiking today. I think that autumn, or this part, October, November, you get a lovely day like this and you get these wonderful views. It's absolutely fantastic. So there you go, there's Sachsenburg concentration camp. I've been meaning to come here for ages, and it's not that far off the motorway. It's a motorway I use constantly as well. Not constantly, a couple of times a year. So here we have the hydroelectric thing. It's a screw something, I forgot what they're called, but the water pushes the thing around and that creates power. It's a what do you call it, a water wheel in effect, and there is the camp. Now, to see it in a day like today, it looks absolutely fantastic, but think of the poor people who were brought here on the 2nd of May 1933. Now, from a place like this, people could be liberated. In fact, many of them were. There were, of course, cases where people were sent then to other camps and they ended up spending many years within the camps. But from here, quite a lot of people were actually freed, although they could be picked up again. So it's largely communists and socialists, people who supported social democratic party or whatever, who were brought here. People who opposed the regime. But let's not forget that on the night of the Long Night, the 30th of June 1934, they also turned on conservatives as well. People who had put Hitler into power. Franz von Papen, the person who persuaded Hindenburg to a large extent to give Hitler his job as Chancellor, he very nearly became a victim of the Night of the Long Knives. He didn't, because he was probably too well known. But the person who had preceded him, succeeded him as Chancellor, Brüning, not Brüning, sorry, the general, he's forgotten the name. Whatever, I've forgotten the name. I'll remember as soon as I finish. And he was murdered alongside his wife. Wasn't Brüning, sorry. And the von Pappen's secretary, Jung, was murdered, and so Hitler also turned on those who put him into power. Part of what the Nazis believed in is that they could reform people. They might be a former communist, but they thought that these communists could come round to their way of thinking. Anyway, good. So I'd meant to do a 3-minute video on the commandant's villa, and I've ended up rabbiting on for nearly 21 minutes. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for being with me, for being with me this long. And if you think I'm out of order saying this is a very nice place to visit, then you can put that down, because I know there will be people saying they're unsubscribing because I said something like that. And I will be doing more videos on Sachsenburg, and I've been meaning to do this for a long time, but now I'm here. I've got my vehicle here parked, and I'm not going until at least one proper documentary style video has been done. Bye for now.